Okay, everybody, welcome to Sound Pollution. Today's guest is Taylor from The Idiot Flesh. And with me, guest co-hosting this week is the lovely and talented Sound Animal.
Hello, hello.
We do not have Brent. I scheduled a Saturday, which is not something that Brent normally does, and it's usually because he is playing, and he is out playing. So anytime you follow Sound Pollution on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you will see that I really push Uncle Brent's gigs, music. Make sure that you are following him. And if you're in that part of Texas, please go see him play. He does do a great show. He's just as funny in person. You will not be sorry. And he's a very talented songwriter. And that's my spiel. So, Sound Animal, what are you doing this Saturday other than partaking with me?
What am I doing? Well, I am working on music videos
For what song?
for multiple songs, and I'm also recording some music for another band where I'm helping them out with adding to their song. And so yeah, a lot of music stuff.
That sounds like par for the course for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't wait to see it. And so does that mean you're working on new stuff, Sound Animal stuff?
Always working on new Sound Animal, a lot of collaborations. And yeah, what's out already is just a small bit of the whole. So I put out one last night, middle of the night. Something like that. I don't know. What's time? Time is overrated.
Time is unimportant. It's man-made.
Exactly.
It's fine. So does that mean, because you keep like pushing stuff out, which has been very fun for me because I follow you on like SoundCloud and everything, and I'm always like, ooh, new song. But does that mean there's a new album soon?
There is. Yeah. A double album, in fact.
Oh, because she is a prolific songwriter.
Yes, I am. And yeah, my old housemate decided to move back and do more recording with Sound Animal. So
Yay!
we've got a lot of music with our collaboration. And so I've been working on, I take what we do and then add layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers, and then come up with the Crystal Galleon.
Ooh. How many songs? It's a double album. Is it like 24?
20?
I
don't know.
I'm excited.
It's a bunch of songs. And yeah, the Crystal Galleon, it arose from this. He and I always laugh around all the time and, create these ridiculous scenarios. So the Crystal Galleon was something I remembered that we had talked about. So I just sort of recreated this legend of the Crystal Galleon and made a music video about it. And it's this galleon that flies through the sky, but the Aurora Borealis keeps just like making it turn into a peacock, a little more than they're comfortable with.
Okay. I'm excited. And I can't wait to interview you regarding the whole process, because I know Brent is like ready to interview Sound Animal. Like he is ready. So it was really good meeting you in person and our little tromp around Berkeley.
Yeah, that was
find
great.
An open coffee shop. It was fine. What happened? Yeah, the pandemic is still very much alive and well, and only certain places are admitting it. And Berkeley was one of them. We were like, is anything open? What is happening?
We'll walk a little bit further over here.
It was fine. Hey, I needed the exercise.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, my stepmom fed me while I was there.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it was so good. She makes garlic butter popcorn. Can we just talk about that for a second?
We can just close our eyes and smell it in our minds.
Oh, I'm still trying to make it at home and I don't have it quite right. I am really excited for our interview.
Hello.
Hello. hello.
Hello.
How are you?
How are you?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Doing good. And with us today is Sound Animal. Brent is doing a show today, so he couldn't co-host. So she's stepping in to be the other voice.
Sounds good.
Hey.
On Pan's channel, the Vanguard Youth Motion, one of your albums plays after ours like all the time.
That is so fucking cool.
Yeah. It's happened a couple of times just like at practice, like when we're teaching our new drummer some stuff and he'll just start playing and I'll be like, oh, Sano. That's kind of funny that happened. Worked out that way.
Another thank you to Pan for hooking me up with some really incredible musicians and a new guest co-host. She steps in when Brent can't.
Yeah, Pan's excellent.
All right, everybody. We are here with Taylor from The Idiot Flesh. How are you this Saturday?
Not too bad. Slept well last night, so I'm feeling pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Taylor showed up to do a Saturday with me and Sound Animal and has thrown me off my game. Which, dude, honestly isn't that hard. So
fair enough.
It's fair enough. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you interested in music in the first place.
So yeah, my mother was really into metal music growing up. So like I grew up listening to like Pantera, Judas Priest. She even like System of a Down and Korn and whatnot.
Yeah.
So like I had a very like early start into like heavier, more creative music, I guess. At least creative for like a 5-year-old. So right. So it just kind of always spiraled from there. I had friends in high school that were very interested in music, and I had a friend who played guitar, and he asked me, like, I wanted to make music because I thought it was really cool. And he asked if I want to play bass, and I like learned bass in like a year, and then we started playing together. And then eventually I joined one of his bands at the time called The Last King, and it was like a deathcore band. And it's kind of just been all uphill from there, really. Do different projects and whatnot.
So how long have you been playing?
I've been playing bass since I was maybe like 12, but I've been in band since maybe I was like 16.
Okay. And how many years is that?
I'm 25 now. So
like 10 years.
Yeah, 9-10 years.
Yeah, 19 years. How did The Idiot Flesh come to be?
So it's kind of a long story that involves another project of mine that's kind of died out at this point. COVID kind of ruined so many projects that I was going to start working on because we get really excited. I would write a bunch of stuff. And then by the time like COVID started, like we couldn't really practice or do anything. So a lot of people just lost steam. Yeah. So basically in this other band called The Slow Death of Gaia, which is also something Pan posted on his channel.
That is a great band name. Can I just...
Thanks. Our vocalist, Ryan Duvall, came up with it. He's quite the wordsmith. I'm more just a write music in the corner kind of guy. And I let other people make the image for me because I'm not that creative. But, so we had a drummer, and not to rip on Zach too much, but he wasn't doing well. And we had studio time. He was wasting much of money on us pretty much. So we were like, okay, we need to figure something out. So we met up with another buddy of mine who was in the scene. His name's Jeremy. And we were like, okay, well, Zach, like, sorry. But we kind of gave Zach a second chance, but I still wanted to do something with Jeremy. So we started jamming, and that's kind of how The Idiot Flesh started. How we rounded our lineup. We're just a 3-piece.
Okay, so who's all doing what?
So I play. It's complicated. It's like bass, but I play like guitar because I run my bass through a guitar amp and a bass amp. So that's kind of all the guitar sounds. There's no like actual like electric 6-string guitar or anything.
Really?
Yeah. I use a lot of pitch shifters.
Okay.
To make it sound like something. And then Tommy Trisdale is our vocalist. And right now it's actually Zach, the guy I was talking about earlier, who's our drummer, because Jeremy kind of dropped off the face of the earth at some point, unfortunately. Yeah.
It happens. That happens. And it happens with drummers. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah. Drummers are the worst to find. I mean,
I'm poking fun at Sound Animal because she's a drummer.
Oh, no. Sorry.
No, it was funny. It was fun for me. She knows I'm kidding. But I like to mess with her. Honestly, though, in metal bands, I've heard that is a thing. It really is a thing. It's hard to find a good drummer who can do like the double bass, and then it's even harder to keep them. So you do bass and you play it kind of to take place of the 6-string guitar. What kind of gear are you using for that?
So basically, I have it's an LTD B206. It's like a pretty low end or mid range, like 6-string bass from LTD, and then I have that tuned to. It's basically a drop D with a regular bass, but it's running through a guitar amp. It sounds like a 9-string or like a low tuned 8-string. Like so, it's very deep. It's I get a lot of those low notes, obviously. And then I have it tuned to some weird open tuning. So like the top 2 strings is like well, in our older stuff, it was like a tritone and a minor second on top, so it's really dissonant. And then in the newer stuff, I think it's more like a minor third and a minor second on top. So it's,
That's
kind of
amazing.
like yeah. So when I do like
and dissonance and you're not blowing up the amp, putting bass into a guitar amp.
yeah, I guess that's like actually kind of a myth, which is kind of fun to think about.
That's great to know.
Yeah, as long like it's just a matter of like listening to your gear. Like I cut the bass a little bit on the amp head just to be careful.
Yeah,
but like I run a pretty cheap rig anyways, so like my cab looks like it survived the flood. So yeah, basically then I run that into an ABY pedal, and then half of it is like a normal guitar chain. Like I have like my overdrive pedal, my pitch shifter for all the widdly woos laser sounds, and then
I was going to ask where the little sounds come from. So
yeah,
it comes kind of from a pedal as well.
It's like a pitch shifter, but it's a whammy bar pitch shifter. By more, it's the pitch step.
Okay.
So
that's insane.
Yeah.
That is you have a very full sound for having so few people in the band. It sounds like so much more. It's just because almost like you're not afraid to experiment and try different things with your bass.
No, I'm kind of a weirdo in the scene. I get that reputation a lot. I write some very like I'm like near Boston, I guess is the best way to put my location. Yeah, it's just a lot of metalcore bands. So
you do
even if I played something more generic, it would be weird around here.
I was wondering if you do any layering to get that full sound.
Yeah, so I do dual track the guitars, fairly standard for metal, I assume. But that's about it. I mean, the bass sound. So then the other half of the ABY is going through like what I would use for a more standard bass sound, but I also have it pitched down an octave, like with but it's harmonized an octave, so it's not just low octave. So like when I play one note, I kind of get like 3 different tones.
That's great.
You're tricky.
Yeah. It was actually kind of sad. We played a show a little while ago with The Breathing Process in Worm Shepherd. There was like a tour. And some people were like really confused because they thought I was playing to like a guitar backing track.
And you're like, no, it's all me.
I promise. It's just
That's
me
a good
making those
compliment.
earthquake sounds.
They're like, where's the backtrack? You're like, there isn't one. That's pretty. Yeah, that's impressive.
I'm glad it worked out the way it did. This is my first time really doing it. I had this idea a long time ago to do it at a different band, but it just never worked out. So I'm just happy it works.
Were you nervous it wasn't going to work when you got there, even though you've tried it before?
Luckily, we had like a test show before the Breathing Process show. It was like a more DIY, sit down, relax show up north, like a VFW kind of thing, and
nice.
And it worked there. And I was like, this actually works.
You're like, okay.
My amp will not explode because I live in an apartment, so I actually wasn't able to test it at like loud volumes.
Right, I feel that I'm in an apartment.
So it was like I was like 50-50. This might just explode. I wasn't sure. And then I was like, oh, it worked. And then I read more on it, and there's not like a whole lot on it, but it really is like kind of a myth that you can't run a bass guitar through a guitar head. It's kind of like how like a long time ago people would say like you have to use R strings or like void your warranty on like some instruments. Like there's just a lot of like
I have never seen that.
Yeah,
probably
Roto
because
used to do that.
Probably because I didn't care. Like the string broke, I have to put the other string on. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, like Roto Sound used to do that a lot with whatever company they were associated with, like in like the 70s. They would just like, yeah, if you break a string on your whatever guitar, you have to buy more Roto Sound strings.
Okay.
Or
see, what happened was somebody told me I had to do something, which made me not fucking do it.
Yeah.
Well, of course. Yeah, that's how that works.
Like, don't go in the outdoor. Now I have to figure it out. Now I'm that asshole is like, do I push? Do I pull?
Yeah.
Tell me about Seize Control and tell me a little bit background about that song.
So the first EP in general is all about so I not to get like really political, but like I was like listening to, like, especially during the height of pandemic, like with Tucker Carlson and whatnot, saying like a bunch of crazy stuff.
Tucker Carlson, sorry.
Tucker Carlson. Yeah. But yeah, so I was thinking, like, if he like would just someday just be like, land the law and kill yourself for your country, like like would people do it? And so like, I accidentally reinvented I have no mouth but I must scream. I realized that later, but like it was just like suicide propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I came up with this like this character is like an AI that like could see like time linearly, and he knows humanity is going to like destroy the universe somehow. So they but they can't like touch anything, so they just like manipulate media into getting people to do crazy stuff, and like this like kind of like overarching psychosis. So Seize Control starts with an AI generated Tucker Carlson talking about how people are running around the streets, killing each other and, you know, committing suicide and all this crazy stuff. So that's what a lot of Seize Control is about. It's just like the mayhem part of we call the AI Nozil his like the main assault, I guess, on humanity. That's pretty much what Seize Control is about.
And I'm just going to do a trigger warning here real quick, because anytime suicide's said on a podcast, it gets flagged. So no one's making light of suicide on the show. I'm just going to throw that out there. It's, you know, a sci-fi storyline, songwriting that has to do with a little bit of politics. So, you know, that shit's happening sometimes. Politics are real.
They are real.
Unfortunately.
Sadly.
Yeah, it was a really fascinating EP to read all those lyrics and imagine, you know, how you came up with this and what the purpose was. And I was a little unsure if it was sort of taking the side of this this entity that was kind of bringing down humanity. You know, it's like, is it a good idea to kill humanity or not? You know, little one, little of the other.
Yeah, and it's definitely a is do the means justify the ends kind of situation. Like, you know, that kind of philosophy is like, does it? Who knows?
Now, did you come up with that storyline on your own, or was that something that the band did as a group?
I kind of threw the idea at our vocalist, and he kind of ran with it. Yeah, it was pretty much just me and our vocalist talking about it. We normally do like storyboards, or try to, and like our Google Drives.
It's just in reports are coming in of people behaving strangely. It's occurring seemingly rapidly around the globe. Reports claim of mass suicides just taking place right in the street and in people's homes. People are now even attacking each other in almost a day's frenzy.
cover art goes really well.
Oh, the cover art's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I thought it might have been a little too Metroid Prime, but I think it's fine. Yeah.
No, it's good. And some of the other pictures that you sent me were really cool too. I love the plastic wrap one.
Yeah.
You and your vocals. That's our favorite.
That's a good one. That was a fun photo shoot. We were actually going to do another photo shoot recently, but we had to postpone, and we were going to do more like cellophane, like, I don't know, like death industrial aesthetic,
Mm-hmm.
but like really low budget.
Sometimes the low budget makes it look like it was super artsy and thought of so deeply.
Certainly. Yeah.
But in reality, it was like, I have $22.50 and a cell phone.
Pretty much. We have a really creative friend. Maybe you've heard of him. He goes by Oak Cedar is his photographer name, but his name's also Brian Zukowski. He also sings in the band Oak, and he runs Deciduous Records. But he has quite the vision that helps with like the visual aspect of some things.
So how would you describe your sound to somebody who hasn't heard it before?
We've been compared to like Cryptopsy a few times. Wormed is another band. A lot of like more like the weirdo experimental death grind projects. I think that's a good way to describe our sound. I really like mathcore as a genre, so I also like, that's where I get a lot of like the laser sounds from when I'm writing that, because a lot of like Car Bomb, for example, does a lot of that. Yeah,
I noticed that a lot in your music. I noticed there was that kind of like sci-fi, for lack of a better word, sort of background with it, I thought it was a synth, but apparently it's your bass, with like the lasers and like almost doomy sort of opening structures, especially with the one we just talked about. Seize Control had a lot of that. Like there was this buildup, there was this guy talking, there was these cool sounds. It was very sci-fi. I think that's why I liked it so much, because I'm a nerd. I didn't know mathcore was a genre that now I have to look up.
Yeah. I guess to name some popular bands in mathcore, like the Dillinger Escape Plan, Botch. But yeah.
Sound Animal uses a lot of like interesting sounds in her music. So I was wondering what she thought of when she heard your music. Just throw you on the spot. I'm sorry.
I would have thought of, they're morphing into some sort of supernatural being here right before my ears.
You stated a lot of bands that you sounded like, but who would you say are your personal musical influences? Like, who did you grow up hearing that you were like, oh, that's neat, I want to try that?
I really like Psyopus, for example, is a band that I really enjoy, that I really look up to. I'm definitely not as skillful at playing as he is, but just like the lack of boundaries when it comes to like writing music, it's something I find very interesting. Other than that, I was inspired by a lot of like power violence bands. Man the Bastard, it was a good one that I really like to listen to. Inspirations are hard because I feel like it's just kind of like I write riffs and then things happen.
Do you feel like because you said your mom was really into like, some of the harder music of the 90s and the early 2000s, as somebody who's probably close to your mom's age, do you feel like, I'm not trying to throw my age out there, do you feel like any of that stuff kind of influenced you? Because I feel like you might have unconsciously pulled some of that in, especially when like Korn has some of that like heavier bass lines. It's very power driven. There's a very bassy. I can definitely hear some of that personally. Do you think any of that made its way in unconsciously, or somebody that you could think of that?
It's very likely that like, Korn's heaviness is like early on kind of like just geared me towards liking music that is more, like you said, power driven. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for my mom, I probably would be like every other person in my area that listens to country music, right? So like, obviously, a lot of that has influenced everything, really. I mean, if we have to go back to the beginnings like that, yeah.
I always say moms have more influence musically on people than or on other musicians than I think they're even aware of. Parents really do have, because I listened to some really fucked up shit, and my mom just let me. And now my kid listens to some seriously fucked up shit. And people are like, why is she listening to that? And I'm like, because I don't care. I want her to explore what sounds make her happy and sort of like deal with what's been going on, because we do experience and learn through music, I think, more than people are aware of. Certainly.
Like there's a label I work with, or that I work amongst. It's the same one that Idiot Flesh is tied to.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna. I shouldn't name too many names, but like
Okay.
one of the artists that I may or may not have worked with was talking to me about how like their home life, like because they were still like pretty young, like they were like teenagers, and it's just like,
Aw.
yeah, my family's really abusive and crazy and stuff, and like I'm like, oh yeah, I can hear that in your music.
You're like, oh,
Like,
I
I can see why harsh noise has attracted you so much. But yeah, definitely the parents, better for worse, everything when it comes to music, I feel like, or like just like upbringing in general.
yeah.
When you were growing up and you were listening to metal and other people were listening to country music, what did that feel like? Did you feel like an outsider?
Oh, certainly. But I had a couple of friends in high school that also enjoys the same stuff as I did. Like when I was like 15, 14, like, you know, we were all listening to As I Lay Dying at some point. So some like mid 2000s metalcore was like a big thing when I was like 13, 14 with a couple of my buddies. But yeah, like generally speaking, yeah, I went to a very small school. So it was like you either fit in or you don't.
I experienced that myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, I'm not talking about like all country. Like I love Orville Peck, for example, but like,
Oh yeah.
it's just like, you know, your pop arena, rock, country arena, like, you know, bands.
But when you're inundated with that and nothing else, and you're listening to, you know, hardcore stuff, it feels very, you're like, wow, okay.
Yeah. I definitely got some, a reputation at some point in high school. But
Well, when I was in school, I just listened to classical. And then when I was riding the school bus, they would play, you know, bad, Leroy Brown. And I would get underneath the school. I would get underneath the seats in the school bus. It was like, I can't take it. Oh, yes.
And now you write like doom stuff. Which
Yeah.
is funny. Just like my favorite thing. So let's talk about another song that you sent us. Let's talk about the second song, Prognosis. Tell me about that.
so the Voidcrawler EP in general is about how is a survivor of Nozil pretty much.
Mhm.
And it's their story of dealing with this psychosis mental illness, because like this person was manipulating and killing like maybe like thousands of people. Like you gotta think like this is like a lone survivor. He's like the apex predator, like, but he's insanely mentally ill because the characters we didn't say the gender, but well, the whole thing is kind of more of a metaphor of like just dealing with mental illness in general. When you're in it, there's like an uncertainty of like if you're ever gonna get better or not, right? Prognosis is kind of the like getting better, but like you're not sure where it's going kind of stage. The song ends in kind of a cliffhanger that way. Like the lyrics, it's just like, where are we going? Walk, or whatever Tommy says, something about walking away into the sunset. Like who knows what's happening? Kind of situation. It's everything's kind of a cliffhanger. It's a little bit of a nihilistic take on like mental illness in general. But
does anybody in your band struggle with mental illness? Because that's what I was wondering when I was listening to it.
Yeah, we probably all do a little bit, whether we want to admit it or not, right?
Because I feel like mental health, and we don't have to talk about it if you want, but I feel like I'm running across during a lot of my interviews that, especially after the pandemic, that a lot of people are suffering from like anxiety and depression and stuff right now. And it's really it seems to be really making its way into their like lyrics and storylines of what they're doing. Did the last 2 years kind of affect you guys like that?
Yeah.
Is that how this character that was a dark couple of years?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, it was a very hard couple of years. Yeah, I mean, like we all got laid off. Well, actually, I didn't get laid off. I actually stopped the work because my job is essential. But it is kind of essential. I work in like a halfway house, so I help people who are on supervision, community supervision, who are like don't have a place to live. So, yeah, it was really boring 2 years for me at least. But I know like my Tommy, he got laid off. Jeremy/Zach, they were in and out of bad relationships and work.
Bad relationships were also a thing during that. Yeah. Now I'm stuck with you all the time.
Yeah, you hook on to someone during that time because you know everything's bad, and you want something good, but then they're not the right person. But you end up staying with them for years, and they're just not the best person for you.
I did not have that problem.
Really?
Yeah, I was like right out of a relationship right before that hit.
Luckily for me personally, I've been with the same person for almost 4 years now.
Nice.
So we chilled during the pandemic.
You're like Netflix.
Pretty much.
Netflix and bass.
Netflix and bass, pretty much. I did a lot of like just practicing recording throughout the pandemic because I still have to go to work, so my schedule didn't change too much. I just couldn't do anything.
with what's going on any longer. I can't be stronger. Let's go. Take my hand on to the other side where it all goes. Let me find belonging.
Music I hear lately, I discover like the voices are actually made with AI. I didn't realize until
Really?
recently how big a thing
A
that is.
lot of filters and
It
stuff.
sounds
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
good. Like it's like they can really jam on that AI voice thing.
Yeah, you can pretty much make a band with all like MIDI these days. Like there's like very realistic like guitar MIDIs out there, are VSTs, bass VSTs have existed forever. Drum VSTs are very realistic these days. Well, the first EP, Interdimensional Cybernetic Telekinetic Dissemination, that mouthful, is real
was a
drums.
mouthful.
But Void Crawler is all programmed because, well, reasons. We didn't have a drummer at the time we wrote it. So,
MIDI drum on that.
yeah.
Oh, interesting. Very
It's
nice.
Cult Drums 2. It's very realistic sounding for drums.
Yeah.
I would have never thought.
Mm-hmm.
I get really picky with drums. I like analyzing drummers. So like my Instagram feed is like just drummers these days. And like sometimes they'll like do like fill breakdowns and I'll be like, save that. So like it can make things sound more realistic, I guess, when it comes down to typing it all out.
How do you feel about the people being able to use MIDI for drums to like and stuff?
I don't totally hate it. My position has always been like, if you have the budget to record real drums, you probably just should. But like, if you're just like me in my apartment, like whatever.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, as long as you do it well, right? Like you can play guitar bad, you can program drums pretty bad too. Whenever I go to shows, I like pre-listen to all the artist albums just to like get a taste for what I'm getting into, or a refresher at least. And I went to see this band, and man, they program their drums, and they're so bad. It's like Snare the musical. Like it's just 100% velocity, 300 BPM blast speeds. It's ridiculous sounding, and I'm just like, I can't. This is bad.
You're like, I can't do it. I can't.
It's like a sensory overload. It's like you can't even hear the riffs anymore. It's just Snare. It's like,
Oh no.
you guys could have just like done this better.
You were already programming it. Why did you program it that way?
Yeah, like just humanize that a little bit, please, for anyone's sake. Seeing them live though, it was a lot better when I could actually hear everything. I
Yeah.
was like, oh yeah, okay, this is what they sound like, really.
What do you like most about songwriting?
I more just like the journey of writing than actually like recording. Like I like to just like sit down, demo some stuff out, make stuff stick. I mean, that's my favorite part about like writing the music for songs. I'm really bad at writing like lyrics and stuff, so I normally don't touch that end. So like a lot of my like emotional capacity doesn't really get into the more lyric based stuff. With the Idiot Flesh, at least, a lot of the music is really just like caveman smash riff. Like,
Yeah.
So it's not super cathartic in an emotional way, I guess. I'm not a super angry person, at least not anymore. So like it's a little different. But I do like coming up with the riffs and being like, yeah, this sounds good. Like, yeah, it's a
Do you ever start off the song with your like the song composition with your riff on the bass, and then other people come in and fill in from there? Is that a typical way of writing?
For the Idiot Flesh, no. It's mostly just me writing the music. Sometimes they'll make suggestions like, hey, we should do this. And I'm like, okay, I'll write something like that and it'll work out. But most of the time it's just me writing stuff.
Where do you start when you're writing? Do you begin with you do the drums first and then layer the bass and then bring in the guitar, or what's your scheme?
It kind of goes song to song. Like Prognosis, for example, I wrote it was just like a riff from an older band that I had that never worked out, and then I just kind of like built off of that. And then normally I do the bass first and then the drums. But like for example, The Mechanist, which is off the same album as Seize Control, I wrote it just like completely Guitar Pro, just like off the top of my head. I didn't have my bass in hand or anything. So it kind of goes between the two.
Where can my listeners find your music?
Mostly on Bandcamp, but it should be on all streaming as well.
So you're kind of like
Spotify's, Apple Music's, YouTube, Deezer.
Deezer. Hey, I'm on Deezer too.
Yeah,
I'm right there with you. Do you have any upcoming shows?
Yes, we do have a show coming up. It's our first show with Zach, actually. It's going to be July 23rd. It's a house show, so hit me up for the address.
DM. Are you on any social media? Is the band
Yeah.
on any social media? What platforms? Boy, did you see the blub? Did you see the bubble pop? Did anybody else see it? I felt it.
Right. Yeah, we're on Facebook and Instagram is where you can find us.
Okay. And just the Idiot Flesh, and it'll pull right up.
Yep.
Sweet.
Sure.
So you can message them, find out more about the show. Make sure you follow them, and then you can find out where they're going to play. What advice would you give someone who wanted to start writing music?
I would say to someone who's just starting to write music. So I'm a big fan of music theory. Don't get me wrong, but like, don't get caught up in it. Like, don't worry about like staying in key or like this rhythm in your head. Like, don't get too caught up in it. Just write it. You know, just demo it.
Just to enjoy the
Reaper.
sounds. Download Reaper.
Just get it out there. Just put it on paper. If it sounds good to you, it's good. Don't worry about it.
So
at least that's my best advice. If I was talking to like a younger me, at least.
don't overthink it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, Sand Animal, since I've got you, why don't you answer that question as well?
Oh, what advice would I?
Yeah, why not? I've got two songwriters. I gotta ask.
Yeah. Well, hell, I don't know. I kind of like I like his answer, like, don't worry about staying in key idea. Like, I think embracing dissonance is a really handy way to do that one. But it's like, you know, dissonance is so beautiful, and so many people don't realize it's allowed, like it's a thing that you can do. And you know, if somebody is like playing something and they can just like let go and be hedonistic with it and just get into the energy and just like play wild, and if it gets dissonant, then like that may be really awesome. So yeah, I would just say, yeah, check out dissonance if you haven't yet. And you know, don't always feel like you have to go by the rules, because it can intimidate some people where they feel like they can't even jump in, because it's like, okay, with the bass you got to play the lowest note in the chord every time, and what if somebody changes chord? It's like, no, what if they do and you just get it wrong? Like, maybe wrong is beautiful.
Yeah, dissonance is where the emotion is.
Yeah.
You know what I love about this? My tagline is make some noise. And you guys just basically were both like, you know what? Fuck the rules. Make some noise.
Yeah.
Both of you in your own way.
Uh-huh.
I love that. That makes me so happy. I just made my whole Saturday.
Glad.
Taylor, is there anything else you want to tell anybody about the Idiot Flesh or anything else you're working on?
I got a ton of projects. Find me. You can learn about some of them. Hit me up. I'm friendly.
Okay, and how can they look you up?
I'm on Facebook, Taylor Belanger. I don't know.
And that's BELANGER,
Yep.
listeners. All right, Taylor. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, go back and listen to this when this comes out because I was like, why is she not saying anything? That's fucking cool.
Point in the beginning where he said something, and
Yeah.
I was leaning down to plug in my computer so the battery was going to last, and I missed what he said, and I felt like I may have been supposed to respond because it's like I don't know what that statement was, but it sounded.
It was about you. Yeah, it was about how your stuff shows up on his playlist.
Oh my god!
And I was like, that's so cool. It's okay. I responded for you.
I didn't. Oh, that must have been really weird when I didn't.
I love uncomfortable shit like that. You know what? This is going in the intro, so now he'll know. Like she was plugging in her computer. It wasn't that she was ignoring me. All right, everybody. That was Taylor of the Idiot Flesh and a couple other projects. Really talented bassist. I had no idea that the sounds in some of that music wasn't coming from a guitar or a synth. It was coming from a bass. That's insane. Like respect. Like
Yeah, respect for sure.
respect. And he didn't blow up the amp. So always a win. Make sure you click those links below and show this artist some love. Make sure that you are following, subscribing, download their music, buy their merch, support the independent artists, support the local musicians. Sound Animal, it's been so great having you here. I love it when you step in. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And half of the fun was so not appropriate and won't be on the show. But that's fine. I think that's all this morning. I want to thank everybody who listens as usual. We are seeing our downloads go up. Please keep downloading it. Make your sister download it. Make your brother download it. Make your cousin. They don't have to listen to it. Just download it. Let's get these numbers up. Let's support these independent artists. Let's keep it going strong. And remember to get out there and make some noise.